Good Wednesday morning, everybody. Welcome back to North Central Weather Center. In today's weather forecast, we'll be talking about rounds of severe thunderstorms producing damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes, and the extreme heat wave does prevail through the week. So, looking here at the visible satellite imagery, we have an MCS or a mesoscale convective system beginning to develop here across portions of Wisconsin, eastern Iowa, down into north central Illinois early this morning. And this is associated with some mid-level vorticity. And what that means is there's a lot of spin in the mid levels of the atmosphere up here associated with a little bit of a short wave moving across the western Great Lakes today and going into tonight as it moves into the eastern Great Lakes. So if you live in the Great Lakes region, the northern Ohio Valley, it's going to be a stormy day and also a stormy night tonight as well. Storm Prediction Center has an enhanced risk of severe weather from southern lower Michigan into northern and northeastern Indiana and northwest Ohio. This covers the Detroit region, just near the Grand Rapids, Michigan area, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and Toledo, Ohio. And then we have that slight risk as far west as Chicagoland area and Cook County, Illinois there. And then maybe just as far south as Columbus, Ohio, and Indianapolis as well. We also are keeping an eye on severe weather further to the west here in North Platte down toward Goodland, Kansas. That is a slight risk there with a marginal risk surrounding that all the way up into the eastern Dakotas and the northwestern Minnesota region. Walking you through the severe hazards today, we are concerned about damaging winds in excess of 60 miles per hour across the southern Great Lakes region, especially around Detroit, Fort Wayne, and Toledo. And then we have the tornado risk as a 5% shading in the brown shaded color, again, around Detroit, Fort Wayne, and Toledo. We could have a few spin up tornadoes as we go through the afternoon and evening, and the more of a secondary risk of hail. We could be seeing quarter size, half dollar size hail or so across this region, especially in yellow, as well as back here into Nebraska near North Platte, down toward Goodland, Kansas as well as we go later on into today. So walking you through the precipitation this morning, we have an organizing MCS, and I think this is a little underdoing some of the precipitation. Extend this at least a broken line of storms further south into northwest Illinois. This will sweep through northern Illinois and toward Chicago this morning, and then end of the afternoon, we're going to still see a broken line of storms here from southern lower Michigan down through northern Indiana into eastern Illinois. Again, I think this model is underdoing the threat for severe weather this afternoon. And then as we go into tonight, a nice matured MCS will be moving across the southern Great Lakes region, bringing more numerous reports of damaging winds, large hail, and possibly a few tornadoes, especially across southern lower Michigan, northeastern portions there of Indiana, into northwestern Ohio. So we'll keep an eye on that. But overall, this will also be producing some decent rainfall totals. We'll see rainfall totals of 1 to 2 inches here per hour across portions of southern Wisconsin, getting through southern and central lower Michigan, and then through Ohio here in northwestern Pennsylvania outside of our viewing area as well, going through your Thursday morning time frame. So definitely a nice drenching rain for many of us here around the Great Lakes. Now we have to talk about the extreme heat wave because it is building here. The heat headlines are expanding with these orange shaded colors. They are heat advisories across much of our central and southern hometowns here. And you can see the reason why is because that ridge of high pressure parked across the eastern Four Corners region. We're on the northeastern periphery of that. You see that short wave, that little divot here in the upper level pattern across the Great Lakes. That's for today. And then as we go through late week on Friday, that starts to build up a little further to the north and east, especially with these maroon reds. That's that 100-degree line stretching into our central and southern hometowns here on Friday, with that red line going all the way up into the central Great Lakes and the north central plains. So we're going to have to watch that on Friday. So temperatures today, yeah, it's going to be hot, folks. Upper 90s and low 100s will be the name of the game all across the Great Plains here in our viewing area, all the way across the Missouri Valley into the Illinois Valley here. If there's any relief whatsoever, it'll be because of thunderstorms across Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio today, keeping temperatures down into the 80s. And then as we go into Thursday, tomorrow, yeah, more of the same, upper 90s, low 100s. Look at the entire state of Kansas, Missouri here. It'll be hard pressed to see anybody in that state under 100 degrees Fahrenheit by the afternoon on Thursday, and much of the same on Friday, with a little relief to the north as a cold front drops to the south here, bringing us Northwest into the 70s and 80s for Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, and parts of northern South Dakota as we go into Friday later on this week. And you can see the jet stream starts to take more of a west to east orientation. In meteorology, we call this a zonal flow in the jet stream. This is Thursday into Friday, so the northern periphery of this ridge will flatten out, and that means more severe weather with an active belt of westerlies in the jet stream. A broad brushed marginal risk from the Storm Prediction Center has been painted across the upper Midwest here back into the north central plains. This could have an area or two upgraded to a slight risk on Thursday, but the reason why is because the coverage of storms does not look that significant. But looking at the CAPE values, this is convective available potential energy up to around 2,000, perhaps 3,000 joules per kilogram. So that's moderate to strong CAPE Thursday afternoon across our upper Midwest areas, and we'll see what happens here. So let's look at the precipitation. Thursday morning, fairly quiet, a couple widely scattered thunderstorms from western UP and Michigan, northern Wisconsin into the northern Minnesota region. Going into the afternoon, we have a little bit of a lid on the atmosphere, a cap that we call it here. It basically is like you putting a lid over the top of a boiling pot of water and you don't let the steam out. That's basically what the atmosphere is like on Thursday afternoon, but then that cap starts to break as that shortwave moves over the top there of the ridge on Thursday night, with an MCS trying to develop, probably not as well defined as the one today, but maybe a loosely organized MCS bringing widespread or more widely scattered damaging winds, isolated large hail, and maybe a tornado briefly on Thursday night. So make sure to have your weather radios handy up here across portions of the upper Midwest. And then as we go into Friday, a more significant day, I do think, for severe weather. The Storm Prediction Center has already gone ahead 2 days out and put a slight risk of severe weather across portions of southern Minnesota, Iowa, southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and getting into northwest Indiana. This is for Milwaukee, Chicago, getting up here into Dubuque, Iowa, Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, then westbound through Waterloo, Iowa, Des Moines, and getting up towards Sioux Falls. So we'll be watching this as we go through Friday. I do think Friday could get upgraded back to an enhanced risk, just like today, with what I'm seeing. And the reason why, look at the CAPE values on Friday. Folks, we're talking 4,000, perhaps 4,500 joules per kilogram instability here across the Midwest into the western Ohio Valley on Friday. That's extreme CAPE. And Friday afternoon, we have an MCS, a mesoscale convective system again, mid-summertime pattern that will develop here into central Wisconsin and back into portions of southern Minnesota. That will dive southeastward and expand in coverage from Iowa through northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, into lower Michigan here, producing widespread wind damage, large hail, and a few tornadoes along the way into Friday night. And oh yeah, heavy rainfall, flooding, and possibly even some frequent lightning with all the heat energy out there as well. So Friday's the day to keep an eye on for sure, but looking at the long range pattern, it really doesn't change too much. Many of our northern hometowns in the upper Midwest and Great Lakes region will remain over the top of that ridge in that firing zone for storms. So expect more storm complexes, with many of those being severe with heavy rainfall through the end of July into the first week in August. And then expect our southern hometowns like Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, southern Illinois, and Kentucky to remain in the influence of that ridge. So not much rainfall for you, but a lot more heat and sunshine across those areas as we go through late July into early August. And you see near normal precipitation, but really I think it's going to be a lot drier down here in our southern areas. We start to see a little bump in the precipitation above normal across our western hometowns, across the western Dakotas, western Nebraska, and western Kansas here. That could be an influence with some of that monsoonal moisture coming up from the western Mexico into the Four Corners region and the lifting over top of that ridge. So we'll keep an eye on that through the long term. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Thanks to all the new subscribers out there. We're up to 207 subscribers now. Also, be sure to press the thumbs up button. It helps to get all of this weather information to more and more people along the way. So I appreciate that as well. Everybody have a great rest of your Wednesday.